Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're doing a Cyber Dragon test sam video. So I'm really excited to show you guys this deck, because this deck is a really awesome nostalgic deck that just got an insane power boost from Cyber Strike Structure Deck. We've got all sorts of really amazing combos in here, and this deck OTKs out of nowhere, and is really amazing, because we now have a Power Bond Searcher for this deck. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name in the description of every single video, getting a signed cards in the mail, and even getting to request the deck profile every single month you're a patron along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into the test hands. So this deck is a really awesome deck that we got a power boost from the Cyber Strike Structure decks, getting some really powerful cards. And the really nice thing is the Cyber Strike Structure decks made Cyber Dragons relatively budget, because all they didn't really include in that is the Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon, Nova, and Infinity, and those cards are not terribly expensive anymore anyways, so you can actually pick up the entire core by just getting 3 of the Cyber Strike Structure decks and then picking up those extra deck monsters for the deck. It's not a super crazy expensive deck anymore because of all the reprints that it's gotten, but it's still a really crazy fun deck to play around with. So let's go ahead and cut the deck and see what we can do for our first test hands. We're going to go ahead and draw into Cyber Emergency, Cyber Rev System, which is pretty much Monster Reborn, Machine Duplication, Nashter, and a copy of Power Bond. This hand is already busted. I love this hand already. So we're going to go ahead and activate the copy of Cyber Emergency, which lets us add from our deck to our hand a monster that's a light machine that cannot be normal summoned or set, or a Cyber Dragon monster from our deck to our hand. I always grab my copy of Cyber Dragon Core, because Cyber Dragon Core is going to get me the majority of my plays rolling in this deck. So once we grab that copy of Cyber Dragon Core, you can then do something very simple by just normal summoning it to your side of the field, because we just want to get that really awesome search out of the deck. So we're going to go ahead and grab from the deck a Cyber Dragon monster, because this, or a copy of a Cyber Speller Trap, excuse me. So once you grab a Cyber Speller Trap from the deck, you can grab another copy of Cyber Emergency, you can grab a copy of Cyber Load Fusion, you can grab Cyber Rev System, Cyber Repair Plant, anything that says Cyber in the name. You can even grab Cyber Dark Realm if you want to, but I'm not actually going to grab that card this turn. I'm going to go ahead and add another copy of Cyber Emergency because I really want to have it set up for the next turn to grab another copy of Core so I can go in for more plays. So at this point, you're going to go ahead and activate the copy of Machine Duplication, because Machine Duplication is going to let us special summon out 2 Cyber Dragons from the deck, which is just so good, just to be able to grab those Cyber Dragons directly from the deck, because we're going to get more plays in this setup. Now once we go ahead and grab those 2 Cyber Dragons, you might be thinking, wait, you activated Cyber, you have Cyber Core on the field, but how did you get the 2 Cyber Dragons off the copy Machine Dupe? Well, if you have never played Cyber Dragons before, the really cool thing about it is the majority of your low attack point Cyber Dragon monsters actually count as Cyber Dragon while on the field. So when you use Machine Duplication, you're not going to summon out 2 more copies of Core, you're actually going to summon out 2 copies of Cyber Dragon, which is really good for this deck. So then we're going to overlay both of these monsters on our side of the field, or you can actually go in for a really neat play where you can link these 2 monsters away to summon out a copy of Cyber Dragon Sigurd. Once you summon out Sigurd to your side of the field, you have Rev System. You can activate the Rev System to special summon back your copy of Cyber Dragon to your side of the field. Now we can overlay both of these monsters into a copy of Nova, and then you can, after making the Nova, detach a material to bring a Cyber Dragon back, because this card counts as Cyber Dragon while it's in the graveyard, so you technically have a Cyber Dragon in the graveyard upon activating, and then immediately make a copy of Infinity on top of your Cyber Dragon Nova. Now you've got a setup hand pretty much where your next turn you can grab out some really amazing plays that I'm going to show you guys in just a second. But with this field, you have a negation, you have a Cyber Dragon on the field, and you have a copy of Sigurd that can boost up the attack of one of your monsters if it battles, and this can gobble up something on the field, which is really helpful for this particular hand. So you have a really good hand, and during the next turn you have the Power Bond to OTK your opponent with just about any fusion monster you want to. So going into the next turn, I'm going to show you guys what you can do. You're going to draw into a copy of Cyber Dragon Core, which is actually what I was going to search off the copy of Cyber Emergency, and I'm going to show you guys an absolutely bonkers play that's going to just totally take this deck to the next level. So what we're going to do is normal summon out that copy of Cyber Dragon Core to our side of the field. Now the Cyber Dragon Core is going to let us add a Cyber Speller Trap from our deck to our hand, which we're actually going to add from our deck to our hand Cyber Dark Realm. So once we add Cyber Dark Realm to our hand, we're going to activate that card, which lets us add from our deck to our hand a copy of Cyber Dark Chimera. Now, if we didn't have Power Bond in the hand, this would actually be the way that you could search Power Bond and get it to your hand, which is really cool as long as you have any spell or trap that you have in the hand. So at this point, we're going to normal summon out the copy of Cyber Dark Chimera because the effect of Cyber Dark Realm lets us normal summon the monster to our side of the field. And then once we do that, we can then go ahead and use its effect to be able to discard a spell or trap from our hand. And I'm just using this as an example to thin the deck. I'm going to discard the Power Bond. You usually wouldn't discard the Power Bond from your hand because you wouldn't already have one in the hand, but we're actually going to search our second copy of Power Bond, which is why I actually play 2 in this build. Now, the really cool thing about your Cyber Dark Chimera is it has a very, very unique effect. Now, what it does is when it's summoned to your side of the field, you can discard a spell or trap to add a Power Bond. Let's take a quick look at that so you guys can see the effect too. What this card does is you can discard a spell or trap to add a Power Bond from your deck to your hand. You can only use dragons and machine type cyber monsters as fusion material this turn. And also, once when you fusion summon this turn, you can also banish monsters from your graveyard as material. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can send a Cyber Dark monster from your deck to the graveyard with a different name from ones that are in your grave, which is a really good effect. But I can also use monsters that are in the graveyard, which is really cool because we actually have a cyber in the graveyard. So at this point, you can activate your copy of Cyber Emergency to be able to grab another Cyber Dragon from your deck to your hand, which is going to help us out a little bit in this particular hand because we're actually going to go for some really crazy plays. And this is going to be one of the craziest plays you guys are going to see in the entire hand. And we're actually going to drop that copy of Power Bond right now. So once you drop that copy of Power Bond, you can actually banish cards from the graveyard because of this card, because it does have that effect that you can banish monsters from the graveyard as material as well this turn. So we're going to go ahead and use the copy of Cyber Dragon Core in the graveyard, which counts as a Cyber Dragon, the copy of Core on the field, and the Cyber Dragon in our hand, or on our field, excuse me, to summon out Cyber End Dragon. And it actually comes out with double attack points, which is really cool to actually summon this monster with double attack points. We actually get the old school nostalgic boss monster coming out at a grand total of 8,000 attack points. Now we can use the effect of Cyber Dragon Nashter in our hand to discard the copy of Cyber Dragon in the hand to be able to special summon out the copy of Nashter, and then we get to special summon back a monster to our side of the field that has attack that is 2100 or defense that's 2100. Which helps out this combo a lot because now you can link away, if you want to, your copy of Cyber Dragon Nashter and your Sigurd on your field to make a Predaplant Verte Anaconda, which is going to help us out into some really crazy plays where we can actually go in with Cyber Overload Fusion, which we probably already have the OTK here, but we're just going to go ahead and do it anyways. So we're going to go ahead and link these two monsters away, and we're going to summon a copy of Anaconda over here, pay the 2,000 life points, and then use Overload Fusion that we have in the deck to then fusion summon again. So we're going to go ahead and banish from the graveyard our copy of Cyber Dragon Core and Nashter from the graveyard to be able to go into a Cyber Rampage Dragon. Now then, once we've used that effect, the copy of our monster will actually activate its effects to pop spells and traps on the field, which is going to be really cool to send from our deck to the graveyard. 2 light machine monsters, which can be a Cyber Dragon Core and a Hertz, which is going to help us out a lot to go send those monsters to the graveyard. Once we send those 2 monsters to the graveyard, our copy of Hertz will actually go off, letting us search from the deck a Cyber Dragon, but we don't currently have a Cyber Dragon in the deck, so we can't actually add one. But we can add one from the graveyard because we have one in the grave. So we're going to go ahead and add that card back to hand, and at this point, you can kind of go in for game because this card is going to be able to attack multiple times. This card has 8,000 attack points. This can gobble up something in attack point position, and then these two can attack for a grand total of 29 with 500 added to it, making 32. You have an insanely high ceiling of attack points just with these monsters on the field. You didn't have to summon Cyber End, but I did it for style points. You can summon Cyber Twin, you could summon the Rampage here instead if you want to, but I did it just to show you guys you could summon this really cool old school nostalgic monster in this deck, and this is an ideal hand. Just to show you guys, set up your copy of Infinity turn 1 with Sigurd, and then the following turn, make all your fusion plays to OTK your opponent, which is the big thing about Cyber Dragons, in my opinion, is going in for the OTK. It's my favorite way to play Cyber Dragons. I love this deck, and it's just super nostalgic to play around with, and I love the stuff that they included, especially the Chimera and the Cyber Dark Realm. Being able to search that and looking at that with all 3 Cyber Dragons in my hand is just so nostalgic. With a Power Bond, just to go in for all those different plays. How could you not go in for Cyber End Dragon? Like, that's just too cool not to do. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for the next test hand. As you guys can see, the deck is really good. And like I said, this is like my favorite build of Cyber Dragons I've ever made. I love the way that it plays. It's so easy to OTK. You can actually play Power Bond in it and not feel bad about not drawing into it, because you can just search it off of core essentially by grabbing the Cyber Dark monster from the deck, and you can just go into some really good plays. Like, it's just overall really crazy. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for the next test hand. So we're going to go ahead and draw into a copy of Ash Blossom, a copy of Ash Blossom, a copy of Monster Reborn, Galaxy Soldier, and a copy of the Cyber Dark Chimera. So sometimes you will run into hands like this that's a little bit of a dud because you don't have a way to summon. It's why it's important to pile shuffle between every single hand, and keep that in mind, guys, because you really want to make sure that you get your plays rolling. So, you don't have any light monsters to discard for the Galaxy Soldier, but you can go ahead and normal summon that copy of Cyber Dark Chimera to trade it out with your copy of Monster Reborn to be able to grab a Power Bond from deck, just to kind of thin the deck and go in for more plays. And as you guys can see, sometimes it'll happen where you just don't draw exactly what you need, but that's why you've got to pile shuffle in between every single duel. I don't between test hands because I want to show you guys what can happen with every single deck. Sometimes you'll get that insanely powerful board first turn, and then sometimes you'll get a hand like this where you don't have a lot to do, which is okay because you can still go in for some crazy plays later. You could have set this card if you wanted to, just to have a 2100 defense point monster on the field, but summoning it into attack position is okay because you get the Power Bond. So at this point, you're going to pass against the opponent, drop the copy of Ash, and then draw for turn and get a Cyber Dragon Core, and at that point we're set up again where this card is going to go to the grave, normal summon out that copy of Cyber Dragon Core from the hand to be able to grab from the deck. See, that's why you pile shuffle. You're actually going to grab from the deck Cyber Emergency, grab the Cyber Emergency, activate it, grab Cyber Dragon from the deck, activate Power Bond, and we're going to go in for the OTK because we're going to send both of these monsters to the graveyard and summon out from the extra deck a copy of Rampage. And once we summon out Rampage to our side of the field, it's at 4200 because it was used with to fusion summon it with Power Bond, so it doubles the attack of that monster. And then we're going to send from our deck to the graveyard a copy of Hertz off of its effect and a copy of Core, maybe not Core, maybe I want to keep the Core, maybe a copy of the regular old Cyber Dragon from the deck to the graveyard. Now, once we send those two monsters to the graveyard, the effect of Hertz will actually go off, searching that final copy of Cyber Dragon out of the deck to add from our deck to our hand, which is going to help us out a little bit because it's going to give us an additional monster to use with our Galaxy Soldier later. Now we can just go in for the OTK with this particular monster and then attack 3 times with it because we use those monsters to summon this card. So that's it for that test hand. Let's go into the next one and see what we can do. As you guys can see, sometimes it's very important to pile shuffle in decks, especially in this one because you will run into those instances. And I'm going to show you the power of pile shuffling after breaking like that in a hand. And it wasn't even truly a crazy brick. You still had Ash Blossom, you still had a Power Bond, you still got into core the next turn, and you had plays rolling. So let's go ahead and pile shuffle and see what we can do for the next test hand, because this deck is absolutely crazy and I really love the way it plays. If you guys would like to check out the deck, it is down in the description down below as well, and I really hope you guys like it. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for this one. So let's go ahead and cut the deck really quick and let's see what we can do. So we're going to go ahead and draw into a Cyber Dragon, Cyber Emergency every single time, a copy of Cyber Dragon, Foolish Burial, which is pretty good, and a copy of our Triple Tactical Talent. So we're going to go ahead and activate that copy of our Cyber Emergency, which the really cool thing about this card's effect is that if this card in your possession was negated by your opponent's card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can discard a card to add it back to your hand. So if our opponent did stop it with like a copy of Ash Blossom and we discarded the copy of Cyber Dragon, we could get it back and then activate the copy of Trip Tack Talents to be able to draw 2 cards off the top of the deck, which is going to be another Cyber Emergency and an Imperm if they do stop it, which is what I wanted to show you guys about this particular hand, is that you can still go in for plays with this particular setup. But let's go ahead and say we activate the copy of Foolish Burial instead. Now the Foolish Burial is really good because it actually works really well with Cyber Dragon Core, because Cyber Dragon Core has another ability besides it giving you a search, because this card is probably the best card in the entire deck. Because this card has the ability also that you can, if you control no monsters, you can banish this card from the graveyard to special summon a Cyber Dragon monster from the deck, which is really good just to give you an additional Cyber Dragon from the deck. So we're going to send that card to the graveyard, and then we're immediately going to banish it to be able to special summon out a copy of Cyber Dragon Hertz to our side of the field, which is going to help us out a lot because this card is actually going to become a level 5 on our side of the field because you can actually change its level, which is pretty good. We're then going to activate that copy of Cyber Emergency, and then once we activate Cyber Emergency, we're going to grab a Cyber Dragon Nasher and add that monster from our deck to our hand. You can then discard one of the Cyber Dragons in our hand to special summon it, and then it will actually special summon back the copy of Cyber Dragon because it has the ability that you can target a machine monster with 2100 attack and or 2100 defense and special summon it to your side of the field, but you can't special summon anything for the rest of the turn except machines, which is totally fine. But at this point, you can just basically overlay both of these because they're both level 5 to go into your copy of your Nova and then Infinity, and it really gets you a really good play set up on your side of the field. So you really get that crazy cool setup that you can go in for with this card. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for the next one, because you get these really awesome, crazy cool plays like that in this deck. So let's go ahead and see what we can do. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck again and see what we can pull off. We're going to go ahead and cut the deck really quick and give it a good shuffle and see what we can pull off. So let's go ahead and see. So we're going to draw a copy of Galaxy Soldier, Cyber Rev System, Foolish Burial, Monster Reborn, and a copy of Core. So once we're going to normal summon out that copy of Core, use its effect to grab us any card that we need from our deck to our hand, which could be a Cyber Dragon Emergency or Cyber Emergency. And then we're going to activate the copy of Cyber Emergency, or you can actually activate the copy of Foolish Burial to be able to send from your deck to the graveyard a copy of Hertz to grab a copy of Cyber Dragon from your deck to your hand. Now at this point, you could activate the copy of Cyber Emergency to grab that copy of Nashter again, because Nashter is a really good card just to get you more monsters on your side of the field, and it's going to overall just get you the maximum amount of plays that you're going to need to be able to do and get your plays rolling. So then we're going to activate the copy of Galaxy Soldier by discarding the copy of our Cyber Dragon to the graveyard, which then will let us search our other copy of Galaxy Soldier from our deck to our hand, which is going to help us out a lot just to get that monster from our deck to our hand. So at this point, you're then going to use the copy of Nashter in the hand to discard this and special summon the copy of Nashter to then bring back your copy of Cyber Dragon, which we now have 2 level 5s on the field. Overlay both of these on our side of the field to make a copy of Nova, and then detach a material from it because we have the Cyber Dragon Hertz in the graveyard to be able to special summon back our Cyber Dragon, and then you can link these 2 monsters away to again do kind of the same thing, summon out your copy of Sigurd, and then make Infinity. And you have a double Monster Reborn in your hand, so if you get your copies of your Galaxy Soldiers in the graveyard next turn with your copy of Cyber Dragon, you can actually make another copy of Infinity, which is really good because we have a double Monster Reborn right here. So, going to the next hand, we're going to go ahead and draw into a copy of Machine Duplication, which isn't going to do us a whole lot of good here. But at this point, you can actually use the copy of the Monster Reborn if you want to bring back the copy of Galaxy Soldier back from the graveyard, and then overlay both of these monsters to make another copy on your side of the field of a copy of Nova. And then you can just detach again, summon to your side of the field, and then overlay on top of it another copy of Infinity, because you can only make Infinity once per turn anyways. So at that point, you have this really, really good field that you can go in for. You can even use Rev System if you want to special summon out the copy of Hertz, because Hertz has the ability that if this card is special summoned, then you can make this card's level become 5 until the end of the turn, which we're going to summon out that monster to our side of the field, make it a level 5 on our side of the field, and then immediately overlay both of these on our side of the field for another monster. Or you can actually link them away for a copy of ANNIHIATION. Anaconda and summon out the Anaconda. And then since you have Cyber Dragons in the graveyard, you can actually pay the 2,000 life points here and protect yourself with the copies of Cyber Dragon Infinity to be able to send Overload Fusion to the graveyard for its effect, banish out a couple of Cyber Dragons from the graveyard, which would just be these two that you banish, and then summon out your copy of your Rampage Dragon. Now, keep in mind, after you summon that Rampage Dragon, you're not going to be able to use the effect of Hurts because you already used one of the two effects of Hurts, but it's still a good card to send to the graveyard so you don't have to see it later on, which is a really good play. You could have also used Machine Duplication first to summon out 2 more Cyber Dragons to your field, but it's not super necessary at all, so we're just going to go ahead and send those to the graveyard and shuffle up the deck. If you wanted to use the copy of Machine Duplication, you could have at that point summoned out 2 more, but it would have clogged our zone, so I didn't do that. So you have all this really, really awesome plays rolling out with Cyber Dragon. So I think that's pretty much going to do it for this one, guys. I think I pretty much showed the potential of this deck going in for the OTKs going into turn 2, summoning out your copies of your Cyber Dragon monsters to your side of the field to get those really insane plays, and what high ceiling this deck has. I really love the fact that you can basically just do this really quick combo that I'm going to show you guys. But basically, if you have your copy of Core in the hand, and you have any spell or trap in the hand, it doesn't even matter. We're just going to say Monster Reborn in the hand. You can basically get some really insane plays because you can normal summon out the copy of Core, and then the Core will actually search the Cyber Dark Realm from your deck to your hand because it's a Cyber Dark Realm. And then you can activate the Cyber Dark Realm to be able to search out your copy of another Cyber monster, which is the Cyber Dark. Normal summon it to your side of the field, discard this spell from your hand, and if you have a Cyber Dragon in your hand or any monster that counts as a Cyber Dragon on your field, then you can just grab that Power Bond by discarding the Monster Reborn. So all you really had to start with was any spell or trap, a Cyber Dragon monster, and a copy of a Cyber Dragon Core to get that effect rolling. Drop this on your side of the field, get these out of the way, or save that on the field, link these 2 away, and then go into a copy of, say, a copy of Sigurd on your side of the field. And if you're trying to OTK at this point, you can use Power Bond, and then it turns into an Overload Fusion because of your Cyber Dark monster. And then you get to summon out your copy of Rampage over here. And then after you summon out Rampage, you'll just send out to the graveyard a copy of your Cyber Dragon Core and a Cyber Dragon Hurts. And then you get a search as well of another Cyber Dragon monster, which is really good. So you end on a board like this just by having any spell or trap in your hand, a Cyber Dragon, and a copy of Core. You can actually make this really, really insane field. So I think that's pretty much it. Gonna do it for this one, guys. It's a really fun deck to play around with. I'm really glad that I could show you guys the combos of this deck because it's super crazy, and show you all the crazy stuff that this deck can do. It's a really fun deck to play with. If you guys haven't tried out the deck, it's very, very, like, besides the copies of Galaxy Soldier, obviously, because those haven't gotten a reprint as of recording this, but other than that, pretty much the entire deck, besides like Rev System and your copies of your Cyber Dragon, or not the Cyber Dragon, but the copies of your Galaxy Soldiers and your copies of Rev System are pretty much in the Cyber Strike structure deck, and then a couple of the extra deck cards aren't, but they're a pretty budget to pick up for this deck besides the Galaxy Soldiers, which you can sub out for something else like a copy of Veer if you need to. So that's for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely tell us what you think of this deck down in the comments down below. If you guys would like to check out the deck profile, it is always down in the description for you guys, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.